Thank you. Wow. You ever start hearing an introduction so good you forget they're introducing you? And I was like, oh, I can't wait till she comes up. Huh? Thank you so much. That was incredible. I really appreciate that. And thank you, everyone at Villanova, for this invitation. I start all my readings out with the same poem. And I've been doing it for years. And after a while, I thought, everyone's heard this. Why am I still doing this? And I had to figure out why this poem was so important to me. When I first started traveling and doing poetry elsewhere, I was invited to teach a group of 6th graders in Miami. And I went in, bounding in, saying, I'm here to teach you poetry. And the area that I was in had a high incidence of drug use, so a lot of the kids had lost parents or siblings to AIDS. And there was a little girl there named Nicole whose mother had just died, and she wanted me to teach her to write a poem about her mother. So I think I do this poem first because it reminds me of the power that language has to move us from one place in our heads to a safer place, which is what she was asking me to help her do. So this poem is dedicated to the 6th grade class at Lily C. Evans Elementary School in Dade County, Miami, which they've made me promise to say every time, and it's like 20 years old, every time I hit the poem. I am astonished at their mouthful names: Lacanicia, Chevalane, DeLeo, Fumaleo. Their ragged rebellions and lip gloss pouts, and all those pants drooped as drapery. I rejoice when they kiss my face, whisper wet and urgent in my ear, make me their obsession because I have brought them poetry. They shout me raw, bruise my wrist with their pulling, and brashly claim me as mama as they cradle my head in their little laps, waiting for new words to grow in my mouth. You, you, you. Angry, jubilant, weeping poets, we're all saviors, reluctant hosannas in the limelight, but you knew that, didn't you? So let us bless this 6th grade class. 40 cracking voices, 40 nappy heads, and all of them raise their hands when I ask. They have all seen the Reaper, grim in his heavy robe, pushing the button for the Dead Project elevator, begging for a break at the corner pawn shop, cackling wildly in the back pew of the Baptist church. I ask the death question, and 40 fist punch the air. Me! Me! An O'Neill matchstick crack child watches mother's body become a claw. And 9-year-old Tico Jefferson, barely big enough to lift the gun, fired a bullet into his throat when Mama bended his back with a lead pipe. Tamika cried into a sofa pillow when Daddy blasted Mama into the north wall of their cluttered one-room apartment. Danya's cousin, gone in a drive-by, dark window, click, 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 gone, says Danya, her tiny finger a barrel, the thumb a hammer. I am astonished at their losses. And yet when I read a poem about my own hard-eyed teenager, Jeffrey asks, is he dead yet? Cannot be comprehended. My 18-year-old still pushing and pulling his own breath. And 40 faces pity me, knowing that I will soon be as they are, numb to our bloodied histories, favoring the Reaper with a thumbs up and a wink, hearing the question and shouting, Me, Miss Smith, I know somebody dead. Can poetry hurt us, they ask me, before crawling into my words to sleep? I love you, Nicole says. Nicole wearing my face, pimples peppering her nose, and she is as black as angels are. Nicole's braids kissed with match flame to seal them. And can you teach me to write a poem about my mama, Miss Smith? I mean, you write about your daddy, and he's dead. Can you teach me to remember my mama? A teacher tells me this is the first time Nicole has admitted that her mother is gone. Murdered by slim silver needles and a stranger rifling through her blood, the virus pushing her skeleton through for Nicole to see. And now this child with rusty knees and mismatched shoes sees poetry as her scream and asks me for the words to build her mother again, replacing the voice, stitching on the lost flesh. So poets, as we take the stage, as we flirt and sin and rejoice behind microphones, remember Nicole. She knows that we are here now, and she is an empty vessel waiting to be filled. And she is waiting. And she's waiting. And she waits. Thank you. I teach creative writing at the world famous College of Staten Island. Maybe you've heard of it. And I can't get my students to write, so I have to trick them into it. And the last time we had a final, and I'm in class, front of the classroom, they're coming in, their shoulders are all slumped, it's finals day, they're not happy. So I sit down and I say, no final today. And they're like, yay, they carry me around the room on their shoulders, yay. And I said, we're gonna try something else. I said, what was your most difficult age? And what was your most difficult age, anybody? 15, 13, 12, 57, yesterday. Okay. Well, the consensus in my class was 13. And when you think about it, 13 is a miserable age. If you have skin at 13, something is wrong with it. Okay, guys, your voice is cracking. There's a whole nether region thing you don't understand. So I said, okay, here's your new final. So then they got mad. They said, you tricked us. I said, no, just listen. I said, I want you to write a poem about being 13. I want it to be 13 stanzas, 13 lines each stanza, 13 syllables each line. Don't you wish you were in my class? I knew. But whenever I give them something to do, I do it too. So of course, when I wrote about 13, my 13 was a little different from theirs. But there's some things, there's some universal misery in 13. So I'm not gonna read all 13, I'm just gonna read a few of them. Okay, we good? All right, 13 ways of looking at 13. Can't believe this first one. Okay, 1. You touch your forefinger to the fat clots in the blood, then lift its iron stench to look close, searching the globs of black scarlet for the dimming swirl of dead children. You thread one thick pad's cottony tail, then the other, through the little steel guides of the belt. You stand and lift the contraption, press your thighs close to adjust the bulk, then bend to pull up coarse white cotton panties bleached blue, and just to be safe, you pin the bottom of the pad to the shredding crotch of the Carters. Who's my age? Okay, anyway. Then you spritz the guilty air with the cloying kiss of FDS. It's time to begin the game of justifying ache, time to name the mystery prickling that's riding your skin. You're convinced the boys can smell you, and they can. 2. Right now, this Tuesday in July, nothing's headier than the words sheen, manageable, bounce. Squinting into the mirror, you search your head for them. You probe with greased fingers, spreading paths in the chaos, wide enough for the advertised glimmer to escape, but your snarls hold tight to their woven dry confounding. Fevered strands snap under the drag of the wiry brush, and order unfurls, while down the hall, Mama rotates the hot comb in a bleary blaze and smacks her joyful gum. Still, TV bellows its promise. You witness the pink snap of the perfect neck, hear the impossible vow. Shampoo with this, sheen, bounce. Her corn silk head is gospel, it's so true. Come here, girl. Even your mother's calling you burns. 3. Miss Stein scribbled a word on the blackboard, said, who can pronounce this? And the word was anemone. And from that moment you first felt the clutter of possible in your mouth, from the time you stumbled through the rhythm and she slow smiled, you suddenly knew you had the right to be explosive, to sling syllables through back doors, to make up your own damn words if you needed them. All that day, sweet anemone tangled in your teeth, spurted sugar tongue, led you to the dictionary where you were assured that it still existed, to the cave of the bathroom where you warbled it in bounce echo, and finally, convinced that you own that teeny gospel, you wrote it again and again and again and 4. Trying hard to turn hips to slivers, sway to stutter, you walk past the Sinclair station where lanky boys, dust in their hair, dressed in their uniforms of oil and thud, rename you pussy with their eyes. They bring sound, shudder, and blue from their throats just for you, serve up ancient sonata of skin drum and conch shell, sing suggesting woos of AM radio. Boom, boom, how you just gonna walk on by like that? And suddenly you know why you are stitched so tight, crammed like a flash bomb into pinafore, obeying your mama's instructions to be a baby as long as you can. Because it's a man's world. And James Brown is gasoline, the other side of slow zippers. He is all of it, the pump, pump, the growled, please, please, please. 8. In the bathroom of the whatnot joint on the way to school, you get rid of the starch and billowed lace, barrettes taming unraveling braids, white knee socks, and sensible hues. From a plastic bag, you take out electric blue eyeshadow, platforms with silver glittered heels, neon fishnets, and a blouse that doesn't so much button as suggest shut. The transformation takes 5 minutes, and you emerge feeling like a budding lady, but looking, in retrospect, like a blind streetwalker bursting from a cocoon. This is what television does. Turns your mother into clueless backdrop, fills your pressed head with the probability of thrum. Your body becomes just not yours anymore. It's a dumb little marquee. 9. With your bedroom door closed, you are a skyscraper bouffant, peach foundation and eyelashes like upturned claws. You are exuding ice. You are pinched all over by earrings. You are way too much woman for this room. The audience has one chest, a single shared chance to gasp. They shudder, heave, waiting for you to open your mouth and break their hearts. Taking the stage, you become an S, pour ache into hip swings, tisk tisk as the front row collapses. Damn, they want you. You lift the microphone, something illegal comes out of you, a sound like titties and oil. Mama flings the door open with a church version of your name. Then you are pimpled, sexless, ashed, and double Dutch knees. You are spindles. You are singing into a hairbrush. Let's see, where do we go from there? Okay, 12. No, not 13. We'll go to 13. You're almost 14, and you think you're ready to push beyond the brutal wisdoms of the 1 and the 3, but some nagging crave in you doesn't want to let go. You suspect that you will never be this unfinished, all Hail Mary and precipice, stuttering sachet, fuses in your swollen chest suddenly lit and spitting, and you'll need to give your hips a name for what they did while you weren't there. You'll miss the pervasive fever that signals blooming, the sore lessons of jump rope in your calves. This is the last year your father is allowed to touch you. Sighing, you push Barbie's perfect body through the thick dust of a top shelf. There her prideful heart thunders. She has hardened you well. She has taught you everything. Okay, where I'm going, okay. All right, so I understand that a lot of people have read Blood Dazzler, which I haven't been reading from recently, just because I've just finished or tried to finish another book, and I've been reading new things. So I'm happy for the opportunity to delve back into this book. I'm going to read probably, I think, about 3 pieces from here. The first one will be in Katrina's voice. Katrina, for those of you who don't know, of Katrina. Blood Dazzler is a book about Hurricane Katrina. In the book, Katrina is personified. So this is a poem in her voice. Anyway, if we're going to have question and answer, I'll address something on this later, but something about how Katrina sounds. "8 a.m. Sunday, August 28th, 2005. Katrina becomes a Category 5 storm, the highest possible rating. For days I've been offered blunt slivers of larger promises. Even flesh, my sweet recurring dream, has been tantalizingly dangled before me. I have crammed my mouth with buildings, brushed aside skimpy altars, snapped shut windows to bright shadow with my fingers, and I've warned them, soft, you must not know my name. Could there be other weather, other divas stalking the cringing country with insistent eye? Could there be other rain laced with the slick flick of electric and my own pissed boom, or could this be it? Finally, my praise day, all my fist at once. Now officially a bitch, I'm confounded by words. All I've ever been is starving, fluid, and noise. So I huff a huge sulk, thrust out my chest, and open wide my solo swallowing eye. You must not know. Scarlet glare fixed on the trembling crescent, I fly. Lincoln, what y'all want to hear?
Everything.
Yeah, Luther B.
Luther B? You want to hear Luther B? Really? Everybody like, yeah. Luther B. Okay. Okay, but you know there's like 4 Luther B's. Okay, I'll do the first one. Read them all, yeah. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, there's the second one. And I'm going to do them all in a row. How's that? Yeah. She's so cute. Yeah. Okay, and the last one. I'm sorry, I don't usually do this. Luther. Okay, 16. Okay. Got him. All right. Luther B. All right. This first one is. Okay. Luther B rides out the storm. No, that's the second one. Okay, 50. Okay. Luther B, the dawn of Luther B's best day. Anybody, does everybody know who Luther B is? No. No? It's a dog that was tied up and left behind during Katrina. She's sad. She's like, ugh. Okay, the dawn of Luther B's best day. Luther B, months mangy and chained down against mud-ear shade tree, feels a little thrill shoot through his planted paws, sniffs questions in the swirled air. Suddenly, the day is touching him. The mutt whimpers, raps yaps, twists his stout squatness, strains against thick links, and moans a wavering O. But nobody's coming this time. Nobody to scratch the dead skin behind his ear. No mud-deer hobbling out in scuffs and shift, cussing and carrying a fresh can of heaven. All that's reaching for him now is the sky, the goddaddy, pressing down fast, cracks of purple in its fingers. Luther B writhes on his back in the dirt, tumbling the fleas, then forces himself still. Snout upturned, he watches his deliverance come closer. With the first plops of rain, he snarls low and realizes just what kind of dog he is. Itchy, utterly bitchless, locked to the skin of a tree, but fat with future. And now, a cool day coming. Hot damn. Luther B rides out the storm. Lord have mercy, my dear moaned, slow and real Baptist-like, every time some kink swerves her day. An August noon, sweating the sugar out of her just-pressed hair, a run in her last pair of church stockings. Luther B. sympathized with the cock of his thick head. Now in the looped reloop of dog thought, he wonders about that Lord and mercy and Madeir's little surrenders. His wet yelps and winding croon reach nothing. Wobbling, he latches muzzle to the wall of wind. There's got to be some good living at the end of this, maybe a pork chop with some religion still hanging from it, or a skillet scrape of Madeir's fat oxtails and onion rice. Bet there's daybreak stacking up behind those clouds, regular, with quiet moons behind them, all rolled up and ready. The day's pewter howling wounds a rib, darkens Luther B.'s itching with blood. Paddling in frantic blue circle, he fights his slippery chain, treads toward a little bit more of remember. Damn dog ain't nothing but trouble, but I loves me some Luther B. I loves him to death. Madeir thinks on Luther B. I bet he done broke loose. Rottweiler, bull, whatever that dog is, he can eat and he can swim. And show them teeth like that's supposed to scare somebody. Luther B., much as that dog like living, he know what to do with some water. Knowing him, he probably backstroking, swimming the ninth, looking for something good to fill that big greedy gut of his. Thinking this all a show put on just for him. Nah, don't y'all worry nothing about Luther B. He harder to shake than a buck-toothed band. And Luther B. ascends. Sketched against a wearied patch of earth, smashed level with the mud, smalled by roaring days and a sky he trusted. This beast, this child. Okay, one more out of here. How am I doing time-wise? I'm all right? Okay. Have to ask the man with the deep voice. Man with a deep voice always knows what's going on. What y'all want to hear?
They say it was me.
What page is it on?
58.
58, thank you. Okay, so this follows a rather longish poem in the book, which is 34, which was mentioned before, which was a poem about the 34 nursing home residents who were left behind and who died. And this is Katrina speaking right after those 34 deaths. Their savior was me. Now everything that breathes knows my given name, the full of it, the scars it leaves on the skyline. They know my moments of mercy, and yes, how calmly I can kill. The bastard child of a blues man in an ocean, I won't die until music does. But I have never heard a prayer that began with my name, gave me pause, forced me to rearrange my wind. Instead, I listened, bemused, to 34 snotty pleas addressed to the idea of him, the ghost in the air, my rumored father. I was all the seconds they had left. They should have smothered me with kneeling. Instead, in their old scratched voices, they begged the wet air for salvation. They called, Lord, 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 until I was forced to show them my face. Okay. Yeah. All right, let's see. Did I do that? Hold on. I feel like I should read something funny. Y'all want to hear something funny?
Yes.
Okay. So when I was a kid, my father used to take me to the barbershop with him. And then when my son was small, I took him to the barbershop, and even though it was different cities and years apart, it was like the same barbershop. So if you've ever been in a black barbershop on Saturday morning, which is like a few of y'all, although most, maybe all barbershops are like this, but black barbershops in particular, there's like balls of hair rolling around the floor, and there's a big picture, a big black light picture up, and it's Malcolm, Martin, and Jesus. They may have stuck Obama on there by now, I don't know. And then there's an old card on there from like 78 with some fisted pics stuck in it. And then there's the card with all the pictures of the hairstyles with the numbers. And then you come in there and pick a number that has nothing to do with your hair. You know. And the barber is always gossiping about people. Okay, usually there's a big picture window. Anybody walk by outside, he's got the latest news on them. Sometimes he starts talking about you. He forgets you're sitting there. It's like, oh, that's okay, I'll wait till you leave. And so the barber who I love the most in the whole world is a barber in Chicago. His name was Terrell. And Terrell has a constant stream of talk the whole time. So when I started to write about, my neighborhood, I could hear his voice, and he just kept going. And Terrell was always talking about how much sex he was going to get, although you knew he hadn't had any since the Eisenhower administration. And so it was just this running commentary. So this poem has mild sexual content. All right, so everybody's sitting up straight now. Oh, it's about time. I was waiting for the mild sexual content poem. All right. I hope I remember it. Oh my God. Okay, I haven't done it in a long time. All right. Well, look who comes walking into my barbershop, still wearing that jerry curl. Man, it's 2000. Ain't nobody got no time for that grease trickling all down their neck, especially hot as it is out there. Come here, let me clip that stuff down. Let those naps grow out. A couple of weeks, I will hook you up with a fade. The sisters don't like putting their hands in that greasy mess. And did y'all see that child Aretha on stage at the president's thing, trailing all that fur like she's Queen Elizabeth and all that fat underneath it? I ain't never seen a black woman with money stay fat. Chicken see her coming, even the bones get scared. That child will eat a spaghetti strap. What's that song she sang? Ain't no way? Well, I guess it sure ain't. She got one chance, though. If you stay alive long enough, time will make you skinny. I just don't know if she got that much time. Oh, yeah, there go that gal I was telling y'all about. Got enough butt to balance a drink on. I'm going to be knee-deep in that come Friday night, or my name ain't Terrell Anderson Jr., and I ain't got my hand tussling in y'all nappy heads. Man, she don't know me yet, but she will. I bet she'd already heard about how my love-making then put a few sisters on crutches. How I done whipped some of this nature on them. Now they drooling, barking like dogs. Thomas, you can laugh if you want. Wait. Oh, you can laugh if you want. You ask your sister. And you over there, ask your mama. They say size don't matter, but it do if it's this size. Man, I have to bind this to my leg. It would scare y'all out of here. Come next week, y'all can ask that gal y'all just seen. She be passing by that one in a wheelchair, mark my words. And Thomas, one too many times I done seen your wife over there across the street in the butcher shop. And the meat she asking for ain't what makes it to your table for supper. She's over there all behind the counter like she's interested in the butcher's business. What she's interested in is the butcher's business. And you better start taking care of business at your own home, my man, before you get a taste of that sausage she's selling. Then you'll be able to talk about, she gone. I tell you, women are liberated nowadays. You cannot be climbing up on top of them, poking them like you got somewhere else to be in 5 minutes. And every time you get a chance, there you are up in the Continental, sniffing all up Deborah Ann's young butt, like she wants something from you besides that money you always waving around. Man, let me tell you, anytime you see flies buzzing around a woman, and it ain't summer, it's time to move on to another woman. I don't know, that wife of yours got some nice legs on her. If the butcher don't take up on her, I might get in line. And what's wrong with your boy? Damn near 40 years old, no woman in sight. Could be he just ugly though. The other night, I heard a blind woman turning him down. Say she could just imagine how ugly he was. And what are you all over there talking about some activator, man? You better activate your head under this razor and let me cut that stuff out of here. This is 2000. Let me see if I can get this across to you. Black man is free now. Superfly done flew. I've been doing this 40 years. This is Terrell's Afrocentric Barbershop Fade Palace and Wild Style Emporium. Now put your ass in my chair and put your head in my hands. Oh yeah. So I'm looking at these wonderful students here, and they gave me that wonderful introduction. They're like, I can't believe she's saying those things. We worked so hard on the introduction. We didn't say anything about sausages and stuff like that. Okay, I'm not reading that. Okay. No, it's just my husband calls it my angry black woman poem, and I'm trying not to. Who said that? Black women? Look. 3 black women. It's like, I need to hear that. It's probably not. If you keep in mind that I was angry for the writing of the poem, but I'm okay now. All right, so, and I'll do this one and then maybe a couple more, and that, good? We good? Okay. All right. So, I watch a lot of junk television, and I'm a cartoon fanatic, too. So, if you watch Tom and Jerry, and you see the black woman's legs, okay, so you just see her from the knees down, right? And every once in a while you hear her voice, and you know how she sounds, right? Okay. So I had to write the series of poems about strong female leads on television and movies, and I'm like, I need to find out who she is. She has a website. She has a website, and the website has a picture of every instance of her legs appearing in the thing, and the one time they showed her face. She has a name. Now, is her name like Linda or Megan or Mary or Pearl? No, her name is Mammy Two Shoes, because they couldn't think. Oh, look at me getting mad. Because they couldn't. Anyway, so that's her name. And then I found out that Tom is her cat. The mistress of the house had presented her with this cat. So that's her cat. That's not anybody, so that's all you need to know. So this is called Mammy Two Shoes. Rightful owner of Tom addresses the lady of the house. I am charming double negative, an overwrought belly of dirty window. I carry the syrupy burden of your love in my yawning breaches of body. When I laugh, a sound riding like knotted oil on each breath I draw, I spread my lips wide so you can see that my canines are obediently filed flat. My bite, without an evident engine, is of no threat to you, no matter how much I'm drawn to the lily-spiced bouquet of your throat. I stammer, spurt spittle, and rewind, coaxing submerged venom past what I'm sure you have forgotten is an African tongue. I have mastered the Google eye, managed vex and fluster when confronted with your dry idioms and piquant nouns. See how I throw up chubby, buttered hands in defeat, awaiting your bemused but kind correction? If I expect my wooden bed beside the porch and the slithery scraps you barely remember not to throw away, then you expect this of me. I am your beloved other, a sexless stovetop stinking of cinnamon, but I am impossibly unlit, such black whale that once the sun sinks, my voice rides the air alone, so black that you've considered bolting my ghost to the floor of the kitchen so that you can find me in the morning. I'm only simple-minded on cue. I have stood in the wet dark of the pantry, weeping, twisting the blaring light from my fist to keep from striking you. I have plunged chunks of bread into warm bacon grease and crammed my mouth away from exploding. You need to believe that yes is the all of my language, that I am conjured of comic bulbous gaze and the head droop, forever on the verge of a grand gospel weep. I want you to believe that I believe that a merciful God laid me at your feet. There are days I feel heart from my knees to the tile, calves thick like the trunks of trees, kissed by the scalloped hem of a daisied apron. My chapped heels overflow my shoes. Thank you, Jesus. I never have to lift my feet from this floor. It's best as if I walk as if I were being dragged, which is so much easier on the soul. Did I remember to bless you for blessing me, missus, with that tomcat, skanked and feral, flea-bitten, steady out of his head with motivation and mange? Did I ever thank you for pushing a cat into the space where any other woman's own child would be? You gave me a look down, a relationship with the floor, permission to wag a flabby finger at something, a little push-pull, oh no you didn't, kingdom to rule, an official reason to flap my gums and call on Jesus for help. I say, Tom, you's in that ice box, you best stop praying. I say, Lord Thomas, is that a mouse? And just like that, I'm up on a chair, all a-jiggle, a chair bound to collapse under my overload, my eyes wide like they've been slapped from behind. In 20 years, you've given me pussy and vermin, the same way you gave me your children, your squirming, babbling, corn-soaked-crowned boys, who started their lives by scarring my breast with their blunt new teeth, who have mounted my body and ridden every tired surface that would hold them. Their fingers gloppy with jelly and snot, they have pried beneath my head rag for the mystery of my hair. They have scraped my forearm and cheek raw and looked for black to be that something alive beneath their fingernails. And yes, they have slowly gone stupid with the sugar, lard, and mouse droppings I shovel into their bowls, then into their mouths. And I smile. I slip a razor into the space between my teeth and the wet wall of my cheek, and I smile. At night, after I have thanked God for the each of you, I never sleep. A soldier, I shamble along the floorboards, the cat licking my heels, that damned mouse skittering blue notes beneath the stove. When I tire, I'm careful not to swallow. I stand outside your door, listening to the capture and unlatch of your breath. I move the blade to my resting tongue. Again, I moan, yes. And God says, I'm not mad anymore. I was mad when I found out that they named her Mammy Two Shoes, but I'm okay now. All right, last one. I'm trying to decide between two poems. Oh, wow. Okay. I heard that. No, if I did both of these, you'd be like, it would not be a happy place. Wow, okay. This one. How's everybody doing? Good, all right. In February 2010, 21-year-old student Samshid Abdur-Rahim abducted his 3-month-old daughter Zara. He placed her in a knapsack, drove to a bridge on the Garden State Parkway in New Jersey, and threw her out of the passenger side window of the car. She drowned in the Raritan River more than 100 feet below. In November 2011, also in New Jersey, Arthur Morgan picked up his 2-year-old daughter Tiara for a trip to the movies. Later, Tiara was found face down in a frigid stream beneath a park overpass, strapped into a car seat which had been weighed down with a car jack. It was unclear whether she was thrown from the overpass or carried into the park and placed in the water. The 5 stages of drowning. 1. Surprise. There is no drunk like the drunk of milk sleep. Drizzled white floods the body and weighs down everywhere we knew about awake. Zara's fresh clockwork staggers with it when her daddy, grizzle and wild-eye, lobs her like a bag of trash over the rusting rail. Inside the sack, the wriggling child does not know the words fly, plummet, or descend. She doesn't realize the quirky question she poses for the pigeons, or how, dimmed and stupid with dairy, she is all the fall the sky can language. Trickling from the breast does what it does. Babies accept what they are given. They don't question the morning's crazed deluge of light, a kitchen's blaring stink, or the hungry hovering faces of fathers. Even after a swollen breeze pries her eyes open in the seconds it takes for the fevered discarding of a daughter, baby doesn't ask the sun, spiraling into the sack, to offer coup or direction. Zara Malani Lynn Abdur-Rahim, little not bird, has been jettisoned, ditched, unloaded. Her snared arms fight and fail to find a suitable rhyme for wing. The river's grim, luminous trash smacks her blunt, but not before her mouth fails its O, not before language breaks its promise to wait for her. If Zara can reach no word for word, no term for the dawning of no, what questions can a pale breath answer? Can this daddy's girl, crammed breakneck inside a down, down, down that reeks so wildly of him, grieve the dearth of love when she has no word for love? 2, involuntary breath holding. Imagine filling your body with everything you are and then holding it there. Imagine your body being small, your life consisting of nothing but primary colors and food finger smushed and the stumbling possibilities of dance. Imagine not knowing that whether or not you can contain all of you in tiny ballooned cheeks decides whether or not you will continue. Imagine not knowing the word continue. Wisp of fish nibble warily at those fat cheeks, fall into irreparable love, and decide to make a religion of you. Hallelujah, you are now a religion. You are now a church of silt and slither, while daddy roars glee into noontime traffic, thinking not about you, but about your mother, and screeching, "Oh, so she got another man now, huh? Well, fuck that hoe. I bet this gonna fix her bitch ass now." And Tiara, you are the fix for her ass now. You are the fix for your mother's ass now. Mute bystander in a gonna be right now reprisal that cannot be retracted. And your slick daddy, now miles away from your plunging, does a slipshod parking job and ambles into a smoky red splash gin mill populated by other men without daughters. Hoisting a fat gold shot, he toasts his one accomplishment, the sweet, uncomplicated removal of a complication. Your cheek deflates and the door to your next minute closes. You were alive when the stream first lapped its way around you, and the duh sound comes easy to the mouth of a baby who wants it. You laughed, "Daddy, Daddy," until even the giddy fish re-examined their worship of you. You chirped, "Daddy, Daddy," until Daddy stopped meaning anything, and you spat into the mud until you couldn't, and the fickle fish, back in love, drew close to kiss the place where your breath had been. 3, hypoxic convulsions. Daddy is the king architect of a baby girl's roll and rock. He teaches her to manage slink, schools her in the mad politic of the wet engine, makes sure she remembers not to breathe in neon or the honed verbs of street corner. If Zara lives, which she most definitely will not, someone else's daddy will teach her all the one way there is not to get lured into a sack, how to lay quietly in the wrong skirt while muscles bloom, how a well-timed convulsion will usually clear the dance floor. Good dancing, like good drowning, hits the backside like an annoyance that must be Watusi loose, but how does weed colored respond to a wet that seeks to rearrange her? Of course, drums are injected, and Tiara, thrash and snapdragon shimmies for her giggle back. Baby is the battery that black women build their bodies around until they're saved, old enough to be officially romanced by the latest edition of Jesus. They haven't felt the full hand of the Jesus voice, but they're flirting with that big daddy for all their little worth. Look at that itty-bitty jerk and boogaloo, that pop swirl of hips they can't find, that runaway rim shot in their unfinished chest. They're rearing back, opening wide, rearing back, opening wide. Two struggling maws are filling with river, filling with river, filling with river, so they dance like that. Y'all know nasty music was going to define that girl sooner or later. Brackish water picks up on the rhythm and controls her arms and ankles. It gleefully involves the neck. It says, "Baby, save the last dance for me." 4, unconsciousness. The river, though. She's sluggish and cagey and a bitch sometimes. She has not yet decided to accept Zara, this annoyance in her mouth. The river is crafted of choke, flopped blossom, and the seduced diver. She is repulsed by the unremarkabilities of skin. Seldom is she in a mood to have her swerve analyzed or interrupted. Prying the sack wide with her flow, she prods the puckered contents, is not entertained. Intending to add the ugly pudge to her baubles, she finds that she cannot rouse it, is not entertained. The little brown knot-fish thing is so flaccid, so unfun, all snazzed up in its sopping petal pink, the eyes closed and rolling, nappy crown trapping things that need to breathe. The most devoted feeders have already had their go at it. The hide slides, puckers, and burps, and damned if the thing won't offer the river proper due, won't beg for its place in the water's arms, it won't say anything. The river flicks her flat finger at it, then flicks it away. She is so over this drama. The end of anything is only a kick to watch once. 5. Clinical death. The final stage in the drowning process is death. Clinical death occurs when both breathing and circulation stop. The victim is in cardiac arrest. The heart stops pumping blood. The vital organs are no longer receiving oxygen-rich blood. The lack of oxygen causes the skin to turn blue. There are 52 shades of blue, or 1,000,052, depending upon which river you ask. 3. Cornflower. 16. Cerulean. 19. Blunt force. 23. Turquoise. 27. Navy. 33. Fix for her bitch ass now. 41. Sky. 47. Goodbye, but the way the river says it. Bye, all dismissal and shade. 52. Goodbye, but the way her daddy says it. Over his shoulder, thrilling the done of the deed. Already mad at the traffic. Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions at all? Yes.
Hi. How
Hi.
much of yourself do you invest into your poetry, specifically in the characters that you choose to convey your message with?
How much of myself? Well, I guess it's got to be just about 100%. No, because I'm, no matter who the character is, I'm making the choices. I'm directing the voice, and the more comfortable that I've gotten with myself through the years, I think this is all leading toward me writing my own stories, or my own story, or aspects of my own story, because if you don't write your own story, you give somebody else permission to do it, and that's the worst thing in the world. So when there were things that I wasn't ready to face yet, it was easier for me to take on that cloak of other people and other situations until I became more comfortable. I was writing toward myself the whole time. So at this point, I think that whatever I write, I'm pretty much fully there. So much so that one of the things I tell my students, I said, at the end of the semester, we should be able to put things down in the middle of the table without our names on them, and we should know each other's voices enough by that point to know, and I think that everything I write is pretty much fully infused with my voice and my choices. Sure. Anybody else? Don't be trying to hit me up on Facebook. Yeah. Yes? Hi.
Can you talk about fearlessness? Can you talk about fearlessness a little bit more? I mean, I think you started it with that previous answer, but sort of just, anything, have you done specific things? Have you practiced specific rituals? Have you read things? All of the above, other things?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from just voracious reading of everything, not just poetry, and a lot of witnessing, but with me, I had something that very much influenced me. When my mother came up from the South, she wanted her story to begin when she got to Chicago. And I'm an only child, so when I started asking, what was your life like before, or where's my history, or where do I come from, or where did, she cut it off. It's like, what do you want to know about all that down south stuff for? So there was always this kind of urgency to find as much of my own story as I could. And I couldn't, if that's what I was going to do, I couldn't let anybody else guide me in any direction other than that. So I still worry about, oh my God, I'm writing about this, what will people say, and this person is not going to like me for saying this, and that, that's surface worry. But the deeper worry is dying without knowing who I am. you know. So I think, I mean, I guess you can call it fearlessness, but it's more born out of desperation to try and root myself somewhere. I can't comment with any authority on the larger world unless I know who I am. Okay, so I often tell people that at this point there's really nothing that I won't write about. The challenge now is, because I grew up so close to my father, my mother and I, it took me a long time to even say this. If my mother and I were not related by blood, we would not be friends. Wow. And that's like blasphemy. And what? You're not best friend with your mother? You know, your mother raised you. Yes, I know my mother. I have a very functional mother. My mother raised me, took me to church, checked my grades. But when it came to an emotional barrier that we had to pass to be truly like this, she was never willing to pass it. So, no matter how much I write, there's still more to write, and that's what I'm kind of forging in that direction now, and it you know, there were people who come up and say, oh my God, I felt that way about my mother too, and I'd never heard anybody say it, and things like that. So one of the things that's happening is you do realize the fearlessness allows you to realize you're not alone. You know, when I told people that I had raised my granddaughter and I thought I was all by myself and it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, and all the 50 people come out of the audience and, me too, girl, here's her picture, you know. So I don't, you know, it's not something that I said, well, here's 10 steps to becoming fearless, or you know, it's just, I think things line up in your life where it becomes a necessity to keep writing forward and not resting. So I think that's where I stay. I answer your question? Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi. Can you speak about your experience with persona poetry and the process in which you utilize to go through writing a persona poem?
I got introduced to poetry by getting up on stage and doing it. So there was a time when the persona poem was like the thing, you know. It's like, and one of the first poems I heard someone else do when I was out and about in Chicago, a woman named Lisa Boscani did a poem about the barber who cut the hair of people before they went into the gas chamber. The Barber. It was called The Barber, and I remember when she finished, there was this white-hot moment of silence where no one knew what to do, and I was just sitting there, and I said, she just struck everybody dumb, you know, and it would be one thing to witness and say, here's what the barber who cut the hair used to do. It was another thing to step into. So there was this one stage where you have to realize that everything's a device. Like when I learned different forms of poetry, I learned it, I put it in my toolbox, and then when something, you know, I have to write an elegy and I say, oh, I know there's a form that lends itself to elegy, I pull it out of my toolbox. Same thing with persona. Before it was like, oh, persona, I wonder what it's like to be the gum stuck under the desk, and you know, and you could overdo it just like anything else. So now, when I want the audience to forget that I'm actually here, you know, and I want whoever it is to be speaking directly to them, and I want them to, then I go, okay, persona's the choice. So I decide I want to write a poem about a skinhead. Well, I'm going to do persona. I'm going to do a persona because it works on two levels. It works on the fact that you're listening to the skinhead speak, but then if you see me, you're seeing the skinhead speak through the body and voice of a black woman, which freaks you out totally. You know, so it's that kind of choice. When I know it can impact on a couple of levels, or it's a voice that people don't normally hear, or it's a strange situation, then I will try the persona before anything else. It never occurred to me not to personify Katrina, because that's another entryway into that book, where you're reading her story and not the story of a tragedy. I mean, she's alternate. I mean, she's remorseful. She's sad about it. She's vengeful. She's like a woman. She's got stuff going on, you know. And I love that vulnerability, but I couldn't have achieved that any other way outside of giving her a voice. So when you're going to get insight to a character that you couldn't get by looking at them through a window, then persona is always the right choice. I also was talking earlier to class about leaving some space for the persona to do some of the work and tell you where it wants to go. You can drive it too much with your voice that it just becomes you speaking in somebody else's voice. But if you want the persona to speak, you have to leave it space. So just like you start where, I want this poem to start here and end here, where the persona probably doesn't want the poem to go there. Persona wants to go in another direction, you know, and it wants to change your voice into their voice. And it sounds weird and mystical, but it works. You really do have to give it its own space. Anybody else? We are 1, 2.
I guess the question would be like, how did you? You're waiting for me. How did you discover Katrina's voice?
How did I discover Katrina's voice?
Like, did it just fall upon you like a spirit, or?
Katrina's voice went through a couple of stages. One was, I had this distinct thought while the storm was growing and it was heading toward New Orleans. I thought, I wonder if she wants to stop. I wonder if she would rather not touch land and if she knows what's going to happen. And this is just from thinking like a poet. Poets are basically certifiably insane. Okay? Okay, poets out there, we're like, yeah, okay, yeah, we're crazy. So, you know, it wasn't like, oh my God, this horrible storm. It's just like, what would it feel like to be hell-bound, you know, for something that you would rather, can she pull back? Can she stop? Can she dissipate over the ocean? Does she have a choice? You know, and once I started thinking she, then I said, okay, any of the vulnerabilities that a woman has, this storm's gonna have. You know, it's going to be regretful. It's not, you know, so, and there was never a time I didn't give it human characteristics, you know, and there's a line in the book, every woman begins as weather. Mm-hmm. And that was in my head the whole time, you know. So, and everyone was kind of like thinking of it as, like she was this enemy. There's this terrible, and I said, well, what if she didn't want to do any of that? What if there's something else driving and she can't, you know? So the voice after that, I cared about her. Yeah, I really cared about her. I cared about her when she killed people. I said, what if she's watching and not, you know? And I brought the other hurricane in to talk her down. You know, Betsy came in and said, Betsy was like, what are you doing? You know, don't you know? Just leave them wanting some. Don't go crazy. You know, just give her this thing, and gave her a family at the end. You know, and then we did a dance theater production in New York. A woman who danced with urban bush women. She did it. She choreographed. I think it was about 12 to 15 poems in there, and we had musicians and all that. And the woman who danced Katrina had taken a leave of absence from dancing in Wicked on Broadway. Rhea Patterson, oh my God. I mean, she was, and then from that moment, I had a physical representation. I mean, she was the storm. I had this physical representation of her. So now, you know, like when I read that poem, the little accent wasn't there when I first wrote the poem. It was like, it was there because she has a face and a body and an attitude, you know, and I have to give her that. So it took over time, but it was never a stage where I said I have to stop this from being a storm and make it into a woman. It was always a woman. Because we all hurricanes one way or another. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, we good? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.